Look at a dog, it's got a tail, a cat, a monkey, a lizard, a mouse, pretty much every animal you can think of, tail. Now look down, nothing, just a tiny little bone buried at the base of your spine that doesn't do anything at all. You're a mammal, your ancestors had tails, every single mammal that ever existed, going back over 200 million years, had one. So somewhere along the way, something happened to yours, and the obvious explanation isn't the right one. Let's start with the answer most people assume is true, because it's the one that gets repeated the most. Humans stood up on two legs, so we didn't need a tail for balance anymore, and evolution just got rid of it. Sounds clean, sounds logical, it's also wrong, or at least, it's nowhere near the full story. Here's the problem with that explanation: kangaroos are bipedal, they hop around on two legs constantly, and kangaroos have massive, powerful tails so strong they use them as a literal fifth limb to prop themselves up. If walking on two legs automatically meant losing your tail, kangaroos would have lost theirs a long time ago. They didn't, so balance alone can't be the reason. Okay, so maybe it's about climbing. Maybe once our ancestors came down from the trees, we just didn't need a tail for grip anymore. That sounds promising. Except monkeys are the counterexample again. Old world monkeys spent plenty of time on the ground, walking, running, foraging, and they all still have tails. Ground dwelling didn't strip them of theirs, so that theory doesn't hold up either. Let's try one more guess. Maybe tails are just expensive to grow, extra bone, extra muscle, extra energy, and evolution trimmed the fat once we didn't need it. But that doesn't match the pattern. Animals keep expensive tails all the time when they're useful for anything: communication, balance, swatting flies. A tail only disappears when it's truly useless, and monkeys prove tails aren't useless just because you're on the ground. So why did apes specifically lose something that stayed useful for almost every other primate on the planet? So it's not balance, it's not climbing, it's not simple cost cutting. What's actually going on? To find the real answer, we have to go back to one very specific moment in our evolutionary history, and one very unusual genetic accident. Around 25 million years ago, the ancestors of apes and old world monkeys split apart. Monkeys kept their tails, apes didn't. Gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, gibbons, and us, every single ape alive today is tailless. That's not a coincidence. That's a shared inheritance from one common ancestor who lost its tail and passed that loss down to every descendant. So the real question isn't why don't humans have tails? It's why did the very first ape lose its tail 25 million years before humans even existed? In 2021, a team led by geneticist Bo Xia at NYU Langone Health finally cracked this. They compared the DNA of tailed monkeys against tailless apes, hunting for whatever difference could explain the split, and they found something strange sitting inside a gene called TBXT, a gene that controls tail development in other animals. Here's the simple version: deep inside that gene, apes are carrying a tiny extra piece of DNA that monkeys don't have. Scientists call it an ALU element. Basically, at some point in ancient history, this small genetic snippet got copy-pasted into the wrong spot. It landed right inside TBXT. And once it landed there, it broke something. Here's where it gets wild. Researchers took that exact mutation and inserted it into mice using gene editing tools, and the mice were born with no tails, or drastically shortened ones. One tiny genetic insertion, in one specific gene, was enough to switch off tail growth completely. That's the smoking gun. Somewhere around 20 to 25 million years ago, this exact accident happened inside a single ancestral ape, and it spread through the whole population. So here's what's actually going on with your missing tail. It's not that you didn't need one anymore, it's not because you started walking upright, and it's not because you came down from the trees. It comes down to one random copy-paste error, landing inside exactly the right gene, in exactly the right ancestor, at exactly the right moment, millions of years before modern humans even showed up. And once that error happened, it never got undone, not in gorillas, not in chimps, not in you. And here's a detail that makes it even stranger: you still build a tail. Every human embryo, around 4 to 5 weeks into development, grows a small tail structure, several vertebrae long, sticking out past where your legs will eventually form. Then your body tears it back down. Over the following weeks, that structure gets reabsorbed through a process called apoptosis, basically programmed cell death. Your cells build the tail, and then your own cells are instructed to destroy it. On extremely rare occasions, that destruction step fails, and babies are born with what doctors call a vestigial human tail. It's real, it's documented, it's harmless, and it's easily removed with a simple procedure. Your body still remembers how to build one, it just also remembers to take it apart before you're born. So the coccyx sitting at the bottom of your spine right now isn't some leftover mistake evolution forgot to clean up. It's the buried remains of an ancient tail, switched off by a copy-paste error in your DNA millions of years before the first human ever walked the earth. you're not tailless because you evolved past needing one, you're tailless because one distant ancestor got extraordinarily unlucky, or extraordinarily lucky, depending how you look at it, and every single one of their descendants inherited that exact same accident. Next time someone tells you evolution is some perfectly optimized machine, remember this: one of the most fundamental physical differences between you and almost every other mammal on Earth traces back to a random genetic typo that never got corrected. Evolution doesn't design anything, it just runs with whatever mistake happens to work well enough to survive. If this made you rethink how designed your own body actually is, wait until you hear about the other leftover parts still hiding inside you, because the tail isn't the only ghost in your DNA. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Did you know you had a tail for a few weeks before you were even born?